So the next thing you'll need is a rotary cutter, which is used with a special cutting mat and a ruler. And there are various makes and styles of these, and really the best thing to do is to trial a few out and see which one suits you best. This one you have to hold with your hands there to make the blade work. It rolls along and cuts that blade there, which you might find quite tiring on your wrist. These other two models, this one has a little handle that switches it on. You can hear the click as it comes on and goes off. And this model has actually got a lock, so I can't actually use it at the moment till I switch the lock off. Then I can lock it open, and then also I can lock it when it's shut. So that's ideal if you've got youngsters around who might accidentally pick one up. You don't want them to be able to cut themselves, because these blades are very, very sharp. So when you're using the rotary cutter, the important thing is that you protect your working surface with one of these special cutting mats. They're called self-healing mats because although you're running the blade along them, it doesn't show that there aren't any cuts or gouges in them. So as you can see, we've got an imperial grid one side and a metric grid on the other. In this programme we're going to be using imperial measurements, but there's a conversion table provided at the end. When you're using the rotary cutter, you need to use a special ruler that's thicker than an ordinary ruler with a straight edge. These ones are made specifically for quilters. This particular brand has little non-stick pads on the back which help when you're on the fabric. They help it not to move too much. And as you can see, you can get a huge range of different sizes. But if you're starting out, you don't need to start with as many as this. You just need to start with one perhaps 12 to 14 inches long and another one that's more than 6.5 inches wide. Something like this little square, which is 7.5 inches square, is a really handy size because it means you can cut units that are more than 6 inches wide. These rulers come in metric and in imperial, although the imperial range has a larger variety because metric is quite new to quilting. Other things that you'll find useful are a pair of dressmaking scissors. They're not essential, but they're just quite nice when we're cutting large things apart like the wadding and the backing. These little snips I find very useful for working at the sewing machine, for cutting off the ends as I'm sewing, because you don't have to actually put your hands in, you can just do a snip like that, which is very useful. And that's just an ordinary small pair of embroidery scissors. This tape measure is imperial one side, metric the other, and it goes up to 120 inches long, which is useful when you're measuring the width of your quilt once you've got it all together. But if you haven't got access to a quilter's tape measure like this, you can just use a normal tape that you might use in your shed or in the garden. When your quilt assembled, it's useful to have a larger tape measure so that you can take the measurements for the backing and the wadding accurately.